How's it going? Dave from Comic Book Investments. Today is the market analysis where I kind of jump into a bunch of different numbers on a specific book and kind of talk about, you know, what's the book about and more of like a return on your investment, more just like investing in this particular book. So today I'm talking about Eternals #1. And yeah, this book has just, it was pretty quiet for a long, long time. I remember getting this collection in where I probably had an entire run of it. I think it goes to 19? Entire run, 1 through 19, and probably had 30 to 40 copies in #1, and then probably like 10 to 20 copies of each from 2 on up. And I got this years and years ago, and they weren't really anything. I'd sell them for like, $5-10 for #1 and like a couple bucks for number 2 through 19. It was just so quiet. It was, it's the Eternals were never anything that popular. Like the original run was 19 issues and an annual. Then they did and that was in the 70s, and then in the 80s, late 80s, they had another run, and I think that was only 12 issues long. And then, they revamped it, and I think in the 2000s a little bit, but it just never caught on. The Eternals never really caught on, to be honest. And now they're making a movie. And that's one thing I like about the MCU is they kind of pick like obscure characters sometimes and like, hey, we're going to make a movie off of that. When they could pick their heavy hitters from the get-go. One of the reasons why they did that, though, is because they would license out all their heavy hitters. So let's look at the numbers here. I made a little graph. So, yeah. But anyways, a 9.0 in 2011 is like $20. I mean, they weren't barely worth the case that it was in. 2016, 5 years later, you're looking at about $50. That's 150% return. Last year, 2020, about $150. That's a 200% return. And then it jumped up to $463, which is another 200% return. But overall, you're looking from 2011 to now, you're looking at about a 2,200% return. Ridiculous. So on your $20 investment back in 2011, so about 10 years ago, you're looking at about $443 that you get. Now let's jump over to the 9.4. Now the reason why I'm not going down to 8.0 and 6.0 and stuff like that is because this book just recently became relevant. Like I was saying, it was just no one cared, and they wouldn't be really worth anything until recently. All right, 9.4, you're looking at about $31, so not much more than a 9.0. Jumped up $70, 125% return. In 2020, so last year, you're looking at about $235, which is about 235% return. That's pretty interesting. And then currently, you're looking about around $550, right? It's about 100% return. You're looking at almost a 1,600% return over the last 10 years, which would have netted you $500 if you would have bought a 9.4 to now. And that's the thing about investing. It's like, yeah, you might have got more return here, but you're technically getting more money here. So now let's look at a 9.8. 2011, you're looking at $70. Like I said, I would sell these things for like nothing. Like we didn't even think about casing them, and they were all, 9.0s to 9.8s, like all in this range right here. And you just never know. Like you never know. I happened to hold back from the collection because this collection was ridiculous. It literally had like this person has collected all these #1s in the Bronze Age era, and just like there's tons and tons. We had like She-Hulk #1 from 1980 and probably had like 50 copies. I had probably 100 copies of Dazzler #1, which I still have all these years later. I also had a bunch of Nova #1s. And funny enough, I took She-Hulk, Dazzler, and Nova #1. And since we had so many of them, I sold a ton, but I had so many of them, I just put them in a box, and it's like, I'll just forget about these, right? Because I didn't need to sell one all the time. So put them in a box. Just recently I remembered to get that box, and I think we had about 10 She-Hulk #1s, and I think we had about 15 Nova #1s, and I still have a bunch of Dazzler number ones, probably like 25 Dazzler number ones. And we sent them all to get graded, except the Dazzlers. Only some of the Dazzlers I did. And they all came back 9.4s, 9.8s. So, man, I wish I would have had that collection that I had then now. But yeah. So moving on, in 2016 is worth about 250. So, seeing some growth right there, 250% return in 5 years. Next 5 years, saw 340% return. And then currently it's sitting around $3,000, 170% return. You're looking at, if you would have bought, look at that return, 4,000% in 10 years. Whew. Yeah, and if you would have bought one for $70, sold them now for $3,000, you're looking about $2,930. So if you look at this graph, now this graph isn't to scale because this is a 5-year jump. This is a 5-year jump, but then this is just a 1-year jump from the previous one. So this line, which I can't figure out how to move, should technically be like right here. So it should just go here to there, right? So it looks like it's going up, but it's really just straight up. So yeah, but if you look at the graph, definitely a 9.8 was the one to get in this book, just because Bronze Age, there's just so many that are graded. People want the top. Like, why get like a 6.0 of this book when you can definitely get the other ones? So definitely just huge spike. Down here it's just like little bit, So if we jump into the GPA, you can see now obviously this is all still going up. There's 30-cent variants, which are a lot more rare. Let's see if we look at the census. All right, the census, you have like 550 copies just at a 9.8, and then you have 1,300 at a 9.6. So yeah, like you got one at a 1.8. That's the lowest grade, and you got a few signed and qualified copies. But yeah, you're definitely, if you're in the market this book for investments, you definitely want to be at least a 9.0. That's where you want to be. You want to be at least a 9.0. 30-cent variant, you only got 3 at a 9.8, so much more rare. You got the UK variant down here, but there's still 350 of the 30-cent variants. All right, so if you look at here, let's look at a 9.6. So as you can see the graph, just a whole lot of nothing. And I got the collection probably, see, I moved in probably somewhere around here. I'd have to think about exactly when it was. No, it was 6 years ago. So yeah, somewhere around here, 2014, 2015. And so yeah, if you look at it as like nothing, these were just nothing books, And then they got a boost up, went down, and now recently, if you look, it's like gone up, peaked, and it's coming down. And I said this in my other videos that June seems to be like a pullback month. Now it could just be like, look at this, this right here. It peaked here and then kind of dropped down, but eventually went back up. Who knows to say? I can't tell you. But June I've seen across all comics as a drop month, for the most part. Looking at 9.4, just jump, a little spike down. If you look at like a 9.8, up, way down. Now, interesting thing is this little tiny purple one, this light purple, that someone bought one for $1,200. I don't know how they got that kind of deal. Maybe it's the beginning of the year. Let's check it out. Nope, it was a couple months ago, or a couple days ago. Sorry. So yeah, you can just see like slowly. It's like in January they're in the 15s, 16s, then they move up to the 19s, then the 20s, then the 28s, and then this one sold for 38. I mean, look at the difference. A month later, one sold for 12, one sold for 38. Obviously, this is probably a mistake. Someone didn't realize what they had, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely seen a pullback. I made a video about my Special Marvel Edition 15, and I've noticed a pullback, just a lot of pullbacks in these books. So let's say look at 9.0, still a pullback. But if you look at the average the last 90 days, most recent one sold above the 90-day average. So let's look at eBay. And that's the thing is, There's just so many available at any given time. You type in Eternals 1, you got 26,000 come back. But let's do CGC. Search by highs so we can just get the top ones. 35-cent variant, that's not number one. Here we go. We got a 30-cent variant. Look at this, 9.8 signed 10 grand. That's just 25. Here's a 9.6. These are all going to be the variants. Someone has it for 5 grand for a 9.8. But yeah, you can just 9.2. Here's another 935,000. 33. Yeah, 33, 32. So yeah, that's what it seems to go. So that's pretty much it on this book. Yeah, if you like this kind of stuff, please think about subscribing. It really helps out the channel. And as always, a link to my website down below, collectorscomics.com, and my music and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, have a nice day.